Hi everybody, my name is Debbie Carberry and thanks for coming tonight to listen to me talk about changing your family's love legacy. I am a clinical social worker and I'm a relationship advisor and mentor, and I have a private practice in Brisbane in Australia. If you can see me, it would be really great if you could let me know in the chat box that you can hear and see me. That's kind of really helpful because right now I'm not sure if people can hear and see me. It's just really helpful for me to know that. As I said, I am a clinical social worker, an advisor and a mentor, and I help women with family issues, whether that's in their couple's relationship or with their parenting or stuff that's going on just for them. So I'll let you know a little bit of information about me as we go, and I'm also going to share with you some information about some of my experience, and then we're going to go into talking about attachment. And attachment is something that I'm really passionate about and I feel very strongly about, and I know really impacts on people's lives. So first thing first, I'm 50 years old. Like I said, I'm a clinical social worker, relationship advisor and mentor. And I also have my private practice in Brisbane, Australia, where I've been working for over 10 years with couples, women and families on all things to do with relationships. If anybody could let me know if they could hear me and see me, that would be fantastic. I'm getting no feedback from anybody, which is making me a bit nervous. So if you could let me know if you can hear me and see me, that would be really, really good. Just so that I know that everybody can hear and see me. So if you could let me know if you can hear and see me, that would be fabulous. Okay, so as I was saying, I work in Brisbane, Australia. I have 4 kids of my own. So my kids are aged 21 through to 14. I've got 3 sons and a daughter, and 2 of my kids have different needs. In addition to that, I am partnered. I've been with my partner for the past 13, nearly 14 years. So yes, there seems to be a problem with the broadcast. I'm seeing people coming in and going out, coming in and going out. So I'm thinking we may have to stop the broadcast and I may have to start again. If you could just hold tight, everyone, and I will try and work out what is going on. Unfortunately, it seems like people are coming in and out of the room. Yeah, it looks like there might be a problem with the broadcast. So if you could just bear with me, I will try and see if there's a technical problem. Thanks, everybody. Okay, from my end, it looks like everything's going okay. So if you guys could actually let me know, can you hear me and can you see me? You should be able to see a picture of me on the screen, a slide on the screen with my name on it. I'm just noticing that people are coming in and out of the room, and my concern is that you can't hear me and you can't see me. So if you could just let me know in the chat box, that would be great. Just if you can hear me and you can see me. Okay, so anybody want to let me know if they can hear me and see me? It would be really great. You can type this on the right hand side of the screen there. I'll pop something in there. Hi. Let's see if you can hear and see me. Nobody's saying anything, and so I'm really not sure if any of you can hear me or see me. If somebody could just let me know by typing into the chat box. I'm seeing that there are people definitely on the call because I can see you. And I just need to know whether you can hear me and see me so I can keep going on with the presentation. At this stage, nobody's saying they can hear me or see me, and so I'm a bit nervous that you can neither hear or see me. So if you could just let me know in the chat box, that would be really, really helpful. Oh, Helen, thank you so much. Thank you. I'm sitting here talking to myself going, you know, I'm 6 minutes in and I'm like, nobody's talking to me. Nobody's letting me know. Thank you so much, Helen. I appreciate that. So yeah, if other people want to let me know they can hear me and see me, that would be fantastic. And thank you so much. Oh, there you go. Yeah, some of the photographs, Meryl, will be out of focus. It's actually the internet that's doing that, not specifically me. But this particular webinar platform sometimes is quite blurry. So don't worry, whatever I've got on the screen, you're going to hear me talking about. So yeah, thank you very much for letting me know that you're there. All right. I'll quickly just wrap up what I said before. So my name is Debbie Carberry. I'm a relationship advisor and mentor. I'm also a clinical social worker and mediator in private practice in Brisbane. And I've been working with couples and families for over 10 years. I am madly passionate about attachment. Attachment for me is the platform for everything that happens to all of us in our lives. And that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight, about how we change our love language for our family, and how we change it within our couples relationship. So that's what I'm going to be talking about tonight. Okay, rather than wait for another second, how about I get on with what I was going to talk about? So changing your family love legacy and rewiring your brain for better relationships are the things that I am seriously passionate about, and this is the stuff that I do in my work practice every single day. When I look at and listen to human beings, what I hear is this need for connection. And a person who I absolutely admire massively is Brené Brown, and she talks about connection in this way, that connection is the energy that's created between people when they feel seen, heard, and valued. And I think that's really a great way of describing what connection is for people. And somebody else who I absolutely adore, her work around attachment in adult relationships, is Sue Johnson. And what Sue says is that emotional connection for human beings is like oxygen. And I think we underestimate in our culture the importance of human connection and emotional connection and bonding. And I'm hoping I can change that a little bit. Oh, my audio is now cutting in and out. This is not good. My audio shouldn't be cutting in and out. I'm thinking this is to do with internet connection, and I'm hoping it's going to sort itself out, Meryl. So if you could just bear with me, hopefully that will clear itself up. Okay, moving along with my slides. So statistically, the vast majority of human beings are going to be in an intimate relationship during their lifetime. And for many of us, it's more than one. You know, we are in a culture where we do actually have more than one relationship. When we are in relationships and they work well, they can be the best things that have ever happened to us. You know, a sense of feeling appreciated, loved, validated, which is a really important thing, connected as in not isolated and alone, and very safe. And safety is a really big factor, I think, for a lot of people. And when I say safe, I don't mean like physically safe. I'm talking about psychologically safe. So, you know, relationships really do a lot for us. However, for people who are in relationships that are challenging, or where there is an attachment problem or attachment wound, there can be really high levels of conflict. And we see the rate of divorce in our culture up at around 50%. You know, these are really painful experiences for human beings, and can leave many people feeling quite lonely, isolated, and overwhelmed. I've been a single parent. It is a really tough gig. It is really hard to then go back into a relationship experience and try and do it again. So, you know, when they work well, relationships can be the most amazing things. And when they don't, they can be the most painful experiences that we could possibly have. So some of the common parenting issues and relationship issues that I see come up are things like a difficulty in communicating, you know, people who struggle to communicate effectively, or things like people, you know, wanting to try and resolve a problem. Meryl, there is a big delay. There's a delay of about between 30 and 90 seconds. Unfortunately, like I said, the internet is bigger than me, and it does whatever it wants. So there is a bit of a delay. And if you can bear with that, we do catch up as we go through. I have a video that I run a little bit later in the presentation, and the video is a little clearer to see, but everything that are on the slides I will be talking about, so you will be able to hear everything that I say. And yes, I agree, there is a delay, and I'm aware of the delay, and it, like I said, between 30 and 90 seconds. If you have questions or want to make comments on anything that I say, go ahead and pop them into the chat box at any point in time, and I'll come back and I will talk to you about them. And we'll sort of try and manage the technology as best we can. Okay, so some of the common issues that I see in relationships and parenting are things like people not being able to resolve their issues. So they have this revolving door of issues that come up. So some very common things that come up time and time and time again that just don't seem to be solvable to the couple. An escalation in conflict in a relationship where trying to negotiate and discuss and manage issues that are hot topics can lead to a real escalation of conflict that's quite distressing and actually activates the brain in a very specific kind of way. So it activates this flight, freeze, and fright response. So what happens is, for some people, they get very still and quiet. For others, they get up and run away. And for others, they want to go at it and have a really good humdinger of a fight, like, gloves off, here we go. So the escalation in conflict can feel really overwhelming for people. Lots and lots of people, particularly women, I guess, talk about not feeling like their needs are being met. Even when they talk to their partner, even when they express it to their partner, and they want their partner to understand that their partner just struggles to meet their need and help them to not feel so disconnected. People talk about being lonely in relationship, and when women talk to me about that, some of the things they talk about are things like that it is a very painful lonely, because the lonely is with someone. It's challenging to be lonely when you're alone, but when you're with somebody and you're lonely, it's a really painful experience. Some of the things that people talk about is the distancing and pursuing dance. And people don't generally call it that, but it's this dysfunctional dance from history where one person approaches and one person distances. So there's always somebody in the relationship who is pulling away, and always somebody who is, gosh, that's a loud noise in my background. Sorry about that, everybody. So someone is always distancing and somebody is always pursuing, which is really challenging for the couple. What I see when it comes to parenting is that both parties parent really differently. So there are absolute issues around the how of parenting and the values of parenting. And it can lead to all sorts of conflict in the relationship. Generally, the way people describe this to me are things like, generally the mother, the father will say, I think you're too soft on them, you're not being tough enough, you give them everything they want and need. And this can be really challenging for a mum who is trying to do her best, but struggles with how to manage her children's needs and her partner's different way of parenting. And of course, most of us go through our relationships just not wanting to make the same mistakes we have with our partners as we've done in our history with previous partners, or if we happen to have separated, that we then don't want to make the same mistakes again with our new partners. So it can be really, really challenging. Okay, you guys are really quiet. So if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat and I'll just keep going. I can see that people are there still. So if you have any questions, just pop them into the chat box for me. I do appreciate there is a bit of a delay, but if there's anything you want to ask, just go ahead and ask me. All right. Through this workshop that I'm doing, more than anything, I want to have a conversation with you. I don't want to sit here just telling you information and having you guys sit quietly listening to me. When I do these workshops face to face, there's a lot of interaction, there's a lot of discussion, and that's really what I'm after. I want to have a really lot of conversation and have a chat about it and understand things and explain things if I can, if you have questions about your parenting and your relationship. Sorry, just having a bit of tea. I'm a bit thirsty. All right. So what is this mysterious thing that we call attachment? Well, attachment is a really important thing that we all experience. There's not a human being alive who does not experience this in one way or another. From 0 to 3 are the times when we build the big pathways in our brain about connection. But our attachment styles are available our entire lives, and we use them for our entire lives. So you might never have heard of this before, and you may not know what yours is, or what your partner's is, or what your children's are, or how they all interact with one another. So I'm hoping by the end of this workshop, you will have a better understanding of all of this. Knowing what your attachment style is and how it impacts your relationship really enables you to change your relationships significantly. People are only as needy as their unmet needs. So when our needs are fully met, we're fine. We don't have issues in our relationships. We don't have issues with our parenting. But for most of us, there are needs that are not met, and we absolutely struggle with that. And so that can cause massive amounts of conflicts when it comes to your relationships. What I'm going to show you is why and how we struggle in our relationships and how you can change it starting from today. Because the brilliant thing about attachment, it is an amazingly hopeful framework for dealing with relationships. It's neurobiologically based. This is scientifically based data now that we have that tells us how and why we do love and how we can change it if it's not working for us. So it's massive when it comes to making a difference in your relationships. So some of the things that people don't know and don't understand is that our romantic love in adulthood has some of the really basic qualities as the mother-child bonding does. They mirror one another, which is a little scary sometimes. But in our adult relationships, we bring our childhood attachment style to the relationship, and it plays out with our adult partner with their attachment style. So we have the same sort of strong emotions. You know, we watch kids become explosive and tantruming and doing behaviors that are scary sometimes for parents. And we see that ourselves as adults, where we have really strong emotions at times when we can't regulate our emotional state and we get really upset. And it's kind of scary. We have a drive for connection. We long to connect. You know, children will be on your heels, mum, 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 because they want to connect with you. And in our adult relationships, we do that too. You know, after long days at work, after difficult days with our kids, after challenging things that come up in our life, we turn towards our partner and say, "Hear me, see me," and you know, we want our partner to come back with, "I do hear you and I do see you." In childhood, you know, children need a safe haven. You know, they go off and do their thing and look over their shoulder. Is she there? Is she there? And they want to know that we're there. They want to know that we are there for them. And that means they feel safe. They can actually take off and do stuff because they're like, she's there. She's waiting for me. I'm perfectly safe. In our adult relationships, it's exactly the same. We want to know that our relationship is a safe space for us where we can come and be our best and also be our worst. And our partner's there and can withstand it. We look over our shoulder and go, I made a mistake, but he still loves me. He still cares for me. He still sees me as a good, decent human being. We experience turmoil at the threat of loss and separation. Your average 18-month-old child will kick a hissy fit if that child feels you're going to leave them. And guess what? We do that also as adults. If we feel that there is abandonment and rejection in our relationship, it will create a storm and a half in our brains. We do all sorts of intriguing and unusual things to try to come back to our partner and bring them close to us again. It is a scary experience for some of us when we don't know that our partner's going to be there. Guys, if you can hear this, can you just let me know? Because again, I'm nervous that nobody's talking. So if you can hear what I'm saying, if you have any questions, just pop them in the chat, just so that I know everybody's still with me. I see people there, so I can see you there. But if you have any questions, do pop them in the chat box. I really want to have a discussion with you about it. All right, I'll keep going. So we go into survival mode. So what happens for children, like children need us. If we are not there as adults, they could die. We need to feed them. We need to house them. We need to clothe them. We need to keep them warm. Oh, Susan, that's brilliant. Thank you very much that you can hear me and see me. That's great. Mirelle, I can hear you, but I can see the text. It's fuzzy. It's the platform, Mirelle. I'm really sorry. But everything that's on there, I'm saying out loud. So you should be able to hear it. And there will be a replay where it should be a bit clear if you want to get a copy of the replay from me. So I'll send that out to you. So as I was saying, for children, survival mode, right? They need us for everything. And isolation for a child is the most dangerous signal. If I can't connect to my parent, I might actually die. So for children, that is a massive signal. In adulthood, the isolation from our partner can leave us feeling helpless and really fearful. So again, that survival of, I need you to hear me and see me. I need to know you can connect to me. So again, the mirror from childhood to adulthood. And finally, we are born to connect. We are hardwired to connect. We, as a race, need to connect to others for our survival. It is a deep instinct that is hundreds of thousands of years old. It's the deepest instinct we have. We need to connect to others. So what happens in this 0 to 3 period in our lifetime is that we get the template for love. And we as parents give that to our children, not through language. This is not something you can tell your child. This is something you demonstrate to your child every single day. Every day in the way you interact with your partner, every day in the way you deal with yourself, your emotional distress and upset, the way that you take care of yourself, the way that you connect to your husband, the priorities you put into your life. You are demonstrating to your 0 to 3-year-old the template that they need to have for love and connection for the rest of their lives. It's huge. It's really huge. This is not something small. We give this to our children. And of course, guess what? We learnt this from our parents. This is not a parent bash, by the way. So for me, as a practitioner, one of the first things I say to people is that I don't know a parent anywhere who doesn't rock up and want to do the very best job they can do every single day. I don't know a parent who sits down and goes, I really want to screw this up. We all want to do our very best. Unfortunately for all of us, we all come with a history. We have our dysfunctional dance, you know. We were taught the way to do this. And if we were really unlucky, we weren't taught in the most healthy ways, but our parents gave us the best that they had. And so when we come to our parenting roles and our partnering roles, we dip into the toolbox that they gave us, the non-verbal pre-language toolbox. That toolbox is not something we have a lot of control over because we aren't even aware of it most of the time. And when we become aware of it, it's like opening Pandora's box when we look inside and see what's there. So attachment is absolutely, massively, fundamentally at the basis of every single interaction you have with every single human being you know, but particularly with your partner and particularly with your children. Guys, if you have any questions at all about what I'm saying, if you want me to clarify anything, if you want to ask me any questions, go ahead and do so. I didn't mention at the beginning of the workshop, but I actually have, I will be giving away something at the end of the workshop for those who are here. So if you are on the call at the end of this call, I have a gift to someone. So I didn't mention that, but I will mention it now. So if any of you have any questions, if you want me to clarify anything, if you want me to go into more detail about anything so far, please go ahead and ask. All right. So why do we need to learn about our attachment history and our relationship capabilities? Why bother? You know, what's the point? Plenty of people don't know. I would say the vast majority of people don't know. Why bother actually finding out? Well, you cannot change what you don't know. You can't change something if you don't even know its existence. If you can't see this, you can't fix it. I talk about a toolbox, and I do that because for me, I'm a really visual person. And for me, it really explains quite beautifully how we do this relationship dance of ours by using this toolbox. So when I talk to people, I talk about looking into their toolbox, accessing what is in there, thinking about what is in there, pulling out tools and making them more concrete, changing them so that we can actually change the way we do our relationships. Our attachment style is usually invisible until we learn about its existence. And tonight you will know yours. You will absolutely know it by the time we finish this workshop. This, as I said, this is absolutely essential for parents, because if you are a parent, you are handing this legacy to your child. It's just really, really fundamentally important. Learning about your own attachment style and how it impacts your relationships allows you to teach your children how to connect in healthy ways, and it will change your family love legacy. This can be where it changes. You can do this for your children. This is the biggest gift you will ever give them, a healthy, secure attachment style. Am I passionate enough? I feel passionate enough. Like I said, any questions, pop them into the box on the right-hand side. This is a picture of my toolbox, and I'm just going to grab a bit of tea because I'm very thirsty. So this is the toolbox I was talking about. This is the one that I use in my mind when I think about attachment and where all the tools are stored and how the tools are stored. Like I said, thank you, Mel. I'm very passionate. I am very passionate because I think it's a really important subject. And I think that, we don't know about it. And, we look at the correlation between divorce and attachment style is massive. We have a divorce rate of around about 50% in our culture. And you know what? Almost 50% of the population have issues with their attachment style. I believe there's a correlation. And I believe it's fixable. I really do. All right, moving along from my toolbox and my passionate chit-chat. So now I want to talk to you about attachment. And what I'm going to do, which some of you will be pleased about, is I'm going to go to a video right now. This is a pre-recorded video about attachment styles in adults. So I'm going to talk about secure attachment style. I'm going to talk about anxious attachment style and also avoidant attachment style. And I've pre-recorded this because, like some of you said, the sound quality can't be great all the time. Sometimes the visuals are a bit blurry. So the videos generally, because they're streamed not directly, actually are a bit better. So this one is going to talk about adult attachment in relationships. And we're going to talk after this about what that looks like when it comes to your relationships and your parenting, and some of the stuff that you can really do today, change today, to make those relationships much better than they currently are. So I'm going to go to the video. As everybody's pointed out, there is a bit of a delay. So if you notice a delay, don't worry about it. The video will come to you. It will come to you fairly quickly, within about 30 to 60 seconds, hopefully. When it ends, you're going to go back to live streaming to me. So if there's a bit of a lag at the end of the video, it's just you're coming back to me live streaming. So just, don't worry, we're going to get back to what we're talking about. Like I said, any questions at all, please put them into the chat box. I really want to interact with you. I want to answer your questions. I'm thinking, you have the opportunity to talk to me. I have a lot of knowledge about this. I work with women every day. I want to share some of that. I want to answer some of your questions, so ask me, okay? All right, I'll start the video and I will see you when this ends. Thank you, guys. I think there are 6 important factors that contribute to an amazing relationship. And the 6 that I feel are really important are the attachment style you have, the things you want to need in a relationship, your core values and beliefs, whether you do or don't do boundaries well, reciprocity, give and take, and how you interact and react with your partner. So I'm going to talk to you about attachment initially, and I don't know if you've ever heard this word before or not, but attachment is something we therapists know a lot about. And attachment is about the way we connect really early on in life. So what I want you to do while I'm talking about attachment is think about if you can recognize perhaps your parents' style of attachment through what I'm saying, maybe your own style, a partner's, a current partner's or a previous partner's, and just listen to some of the things I'm saying and see if you can pick out things that describe the ways you might interact with some of these people. So what is attachment exactly? Well, attachment is the biological root of love. It is it refers to the way we relate to other people, and our attachment style is actually formed from birth to about the first 3 years of our life. This style of relating that we learn so early on when we're infants is actually used in our intimate relationships and the way we parent our own children as we get older. During infancy, how our parents respond to us establishes our style of attaching, and so it's about when you see a small baby cry and you watch your mum who will then soothe that child, that baby learns, if I want to get my needs met, I need to do very specific behaviours and my mother responds to me. Depending on whether our parents were very responsive to us and took care of us in a way that was helpful or not, will depend on the style of attachment that we actually have. So that style is taught to us really, really, really early on in life, and it's the style that tells us how we get our needs met by a significant other. And that pattern that we learn in that really, really early stage of life, we take through with us for the rest of our lives into every other intimate connection that we have. So personal relationships, intimate relationships, and relationships with our own children. These styles of attaching go on to guide the way we feel, some of the thoughts we have, and our expectations within our intimate relationships. So I'm sure you can understand, given that it's really important for you to understand your attachment style and the attachment style of your partner or a prospective partner, because if you have very different attachment styles, you're going to have some really big struggles in your relationship. Also, if you have an attachment style that is quite challenging for you, it's going to be hard for your partner to meet you where you want them to. So in understanding what your attachment style is, it gives you the opportunity to try and structure a relationship differently. So there are lots of different styles of attaching, but the three most common and the three that I'm going to focus on are secure attachment, anxious, and avoidant. And according to research, 60% of the population are securely attached, 20% are anxiously attached, and 20% are avoidant. I have to say that in my clinical work, I don't see that, but then people don't generally come and see me when they have really good secure attachment styles because their relationships are going really well. So I see probably more anxiously attached individuals and some avoidant attached individuals in my clinical practice. All right, so what are the secure characteristics of an adult who has a secure attachment style? So they feel secure and connected to their partner, generally speaking. They allow themselves and their partner to have freedom within the relationship. They are able to offer support when their partner feels distressed and to receive support when they are feeling distressed. They go to their partner for comfort when they are troubled. The relationship tends to be honest, open, and equal, with both people feeling independent yet loving towards each other. They feel confident that their partners will be there for them when they need them, and they're open to depending on others and having others depend on them. Okay, so if we move into the next style, which is our anxious characteristics, and this really is a style that has a double-edged sword, so it's a really tricky style. So some of the characteristics include being suspicious and distrustful on one hand, but at the same time feeling clingy and needy, and sometimes even desperate on the other. There's a level of self-criticism and insecurity. Usually there's a strong belief that they're going to be rejected, and this can lead to lots of worry and not trusting people. They can assume the role of pursuer, especially if the other person is distancing. It can really make them quite frantic to pursue. There can be outbursts of anger followed by pleas for forgiveness and support, and usually that's about when they have an attachment wound. Oops, there's my phone. When they have an attachment wound, that will really agitate them and distress them, and so they can become quite angry, but then they feel really terrible afterwards. So it's a really painful kind of attachment style. Okay, avoidant characteristics in adults. These particular adults have a strong need for independence and self-sufficiency, and they are far more important to these people than intimacy is. They do enjoy closeness, but for a limited period of time. So when you see avoidant adults, they tend to want and they need closeness, but it can feel really engulfing and overwhelming if it goes on for too long. So they try and get distance in between their connections. They can also work very hard to protect their freedom, so they delay commitment for as long as they possibly can. They do commit still, but it can be a much longer process. They can be hypervigilant about a partner's attempts to control them or to limit their autonomy and freedom. So any perception they have that their partner is trying to control them is really not, they don't enjoy it at all, and they're quite heightened, so they're watching for it all of the time. They can engage in distancing behaviours, so they can do very specific behaviours that will cause distance in a relationship, like flirting, making unilateral decisions, sometimes big decisions about the relationship without actually talking to the other person. They might completely ignore their partner, or they may quite openly and overtly dismiss their feelings and needs, which can feel very painful to the person on the receiving end. And they are more likely than other attachment styles to actually engage in casual sex. Okay, so some of the other issues that perhaps you need to think about when you're looking at your particular style of attachment are things like, how do you or your partner react to direct requests for closeness? First of all, do you actually make direct requests for closeness? But if you do, what happens? How do you feel about that? How does your partner feel about it? Do you or your partner try to meet each other's needs, or is there some defensiveness or some discomfort around requests for closeness or spending time together or meeting needs that you have? Do they accommodate you once and then they return to distancing behaviour? So they may say, yes, I'd love to spend tonight with you, and then you might not see them for another week. Or they may not answer their phone, or they may not respond to emails, so that there's then a distancing behaviour after you've had a connection. Do they welcome closeness and connection, but they require lots of reassurance about your commitment and about the relationship itself? Do you sometimes, really doubt the relationship, even though it looks like it's really committed and he really is in it? Do you wonder and worry that, oh gosh, maybe this isn't going so well? So you look for lots and lots of reassurance, and he says things like, I've told you 100 times I really like you. I'm really in love with you. I really want to be with you. I'm really committed to this. But there are still doubts inside your mind. Okay, so just something to remember, that somebody who has a secure attachment style will not play games with you, will communicate well, and will compromise. People who have the other styles of attachment really struggle with some of those things. It's not necessarily deliberate, but it is a pattern of behavior they've learned over a long, long period of time. And so, you're going to be able to tell quite quickly if a person is securely attached. Watch TV shows, look around you in the office, watch people in your community, and you'll be able to tell those people who appear to be quite securely attached. So yeah, keep an eye out and see what you can find. All right, I've got some questions for you then. Did you see your own attachment style in some of the things that I just shared with you? What about your current partner or your parents? And of course, what about the style you use with your own children if you have children? So I'm sure that during some of that information I presented, you would have spotted some things that made you go, that sounds really familiar. Understanding your attachment style and the person you're in a relationship with, or you're considering being in a relationship with, is vital in my opinion. And it'll help you to have a happy and fulfilling relationship. Here's the rub. Relationships activate our attachment style. So we can only really work on changing our attachment style itself whilst we're in a relationship with another human being. However, there's still a ton of work that you can do to improve how you manage relationships generally by yourself, so that when the time comes and we do partner, we're able to have a more secure attachment style with that person. Your intimate relationships will unconsciously stimulate your attachment style and your attachment wounds. And I guess this isn't a fatal blow, people. I guess whether you're in a current relationship with somebody and there are attachment problems within that relationship, this will highlight the section we've just done was going to highlight for you very specific things. It will explain to you behaviors that go on in that relationship. And when you know something, you can do something about it. It's when you don't know, you have no chance of changing anything. So I guess when it comes to attachment, if you are partnered currently, it's not the end of the world if you have attachment problems, because now you're aware of it. And what you can do is actually work on those attachment styles with your partner, discuss them, talk about them, change them up. I really strongly believe that relationships are about repairing the old stuff and fixing the old stuff. So if you're in a relationship, knowing this information is really helpful. If you're not currently partnered, it's still helpful, because when it comes to partnering again, you will have an awareness of who you're picking, why you're picking them. You'll be able to see why you're activated by certain things, why certain things are making you distressed, and then you can start working on changing that behavior. So, what can you do? Well, if you want to avoid relationships that hurt you because of your attachment style, some of the things you can do is you need to work on things like self-compassion and self-acceptance, which are nothing like self-esteem. I'm not a big believer of self-esteem. I don't think it's a good thing, but I do believe in self-compassion and self-acceptance. I think self-esteem is about comparing ourselves to other people and whether we're good enough or not good enough, whereas self-compassion and self-acceptance are literally that. They're about accepting that I am absolutely perfectly fine exactly as I am. I don't need to change who I am. I'm good enough when I wake up and take an oxygen every single day, I'm good enough. And being kind to ourselves when we fail, because we all fail, we all make mistakes, we all fall over, we all make poor choices from time to time. So being compassionate and kind to ourselves is really, really important. Another thing I think that's really important is learning to communicate well and to be assertive in our communication style. And I think many women find that really, really challenging. But it is really important to be able to ask for what you want and need. That's really important. The other thing is to set boundaries. And for many people, especially if you have had issues in your history, it can be quite hard to set boundaries. So learning, what your boundaries are, how to articulate your boundaries, how to set boundaries, people, and what to do if people decide to ignore your boundaries, because sometimes people do, is really important. Okay, another thing that's really important is identifying, honouring and assertively expressing your emotional needs. Now, it's hard enough to say, let alone to do. But I think being able, if you know what you need and you can express what you need and you can honour it, then you have more likelihood of getting your emotional needs met. So that is also important. Risking being authentic and direct, I think, is really hard to do in our culture. Women particularly are fed the story of serving others and being kind to others. And I think, being authentic and direct about what you need and the vulnerability that comes with that is really important. The other thing is trying to play games or try to manipulate your partner's interest. And there's my phone again. Okay. So, don't play games. Don't manipulate it. I understand why some people feel that they need to do that, but it's really important if you can learn other strategies that are more helpful and more likely to get you the things that you actually want and need. And finally, stop reacting. Oh, so easy to do. Not really. And learn to resolve your conflicts and detach from your partner's stuff. And I guess detaching is an interesting word, but I think being able to stand back objectively and have the space between what is quite a strong emotional response to something and your actual response can help you get where you need to go. And I think learning to do that is really helpful in relationships and really can make relationships really fulfilling. So there's some strategies around attachment and around how you manage attachment. Okay, so what I'm hoping from that is that you got a really clear understanding of these different styles of attaching that I was talking about and how they might interact with each other. Mirelle, during that video, you asked a really important question, which is, can you have some characteristics from 2 or more of the attachment styles? You bet you can. When you think about the dance of attachment that our parents have, our parents had different attachment styles, right? So you can bet that you have learned different ways of attaching and connecting based on those 2 people who are in your life. And for some people it's 2, for some it's 1, for 2 it's more than that. For some of us, there are way more people in our history than just our mum and dad. So yeah, absolutely. There can be way more, there can be a lot of fluidity, I guess, around it. And the thing to remember is that in different circumstances with different people, we will draw on different parts of our attachment style. So the closer we are to somebody, the more emotionally bonded to, the more closely connected to them that we are, the more likely we are to go to the defaults that we learnt in our history. So we're more likely to be going to those things that are really comfortable to us, that we really get and we really understand. So absolutely, we can have more than one style of attaching, and we may move up and down the continuum depending on the circumstances. Okay, so based on that information, I want to kind of talk about some myths that go around in relationships. Thanks, Cassandra. And I guess one of the biggest myths I hear, like women say this to me all of the time, is I'm too needy. They tell me I'm too needy. My partner says I'm too needy. I feel like I need a lot. And so there's this idea that if we are needy, we're weak or we're defective in some way, shape and form. It drives me mental because the bottom line is we are only as needy as our unmet needs. If our needs are met, then we're fine. It's when our needs are not met that we're coming in time and time again saying, Hey, help me out here, help me out here. So in our culture, and unfortunately for women in our culture, you know, if you're needy, and you can't see my hands doing that, but if you are needy, and you know what I'm doing, ladies, then the perception is that there is some weakness or defectivity about you, and that is not accurate. It's just not accurate. We know from science tells us this, that we are better together. We are better when there is another. That's the way human beings are born to be and to exist in their lives. We are better when there is another. Loving and being loved actually makes us stronger. The research data behind this is massive, and the stuff coming out of the US from Sue Johnson is just unbelievable. They're doing brain scans and watching what happens when we are connected to another person, what happens to our pain threshold, our emotional well-being, our physical well-being. It's just huge. So for us, our partners are a resource, and they have the capacity to help to calm us down. Unfortunately, they also have the capacity to exacerbate the hell out of us, because if they're not tuned in, if they have attachment issues of their own, they are likely to exacerbate us rather than calm us. So it's a strength to ask for help and to seek comfort. That is an absolute strength. If you are able to do that, you are miles ahead of the rest. You know, when you give yourself permission to say, I need your help, I'm struggling, this is hard. When we can do that, we are much, much stronger, and we have a much higher likelihood of getting our needs met. Love actually makes us stronger emotionally, physically, psychologically. It makes us heaps stronger as human beings. Like I said, any questions, just pop them into the chat, ladies. I really, really want you to sort of interact with me. It's really important. Okay, so when we look at our relationships, right, we want to know from our partner, we look toward them and we say, hey, are you there for me emotionally? And we wait. And we hope that they're going to say yes. For some of us, that is not our experience. For some of us, our partners turn away. And the answer is no. And when the answer is no, I'm not here for you emotionally, whether that's the person walks away from you, the person is distracted by other things, the person explains away their difficulties with connecting to you, we become really distressed. We become so distressed, and we move to our attachment style. We move to the dance of disconnection. We go to our toxic pool of history, and we pull out tools that tell us what we should be doing when a person disconnects from us. And for most of us, there are only a couple of choices. We might push for a response. You know that one where you poke and you poke and you poke, like, come on, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you, I need to talk to you. Why do you avoid talking to me? I need to talk to you. And the person who's on the other end is like, back off, you're driving me nuts. It can lead to a sense of frustration and anger, where we become so activated, we behave in ways that are really distressing. We yell, we shout, we scream, we tantrum like a child, because this really desperate need for connection is being pushed away, and it activates the hell out of our brain. Or we might get helpless and sit feeling isolated and alone and scared and fearful. And all of those things equate to abandonment and rejection. The things that will absolutely every human being in the world, unless you happen to be really seriously avoidantly attached, or you have had a massive trauma in your history, abandonment and rejection will light your brain up like the 4th of July, because we crave connection, and any idea of disconnection is going to get us distressed. The other thing that happens is the other party may move to criticism, or we may move to criticism, and we do that as a defense mechanism. We wanting to defend, we wanting to be self-protective, but our brains are hardwired to hear criticism as a danger signal. Our brains are ready for it. It's coded in that criticism actually activates the reptilian part of your brain that says you are in danger right now. Your brain does not differentiate. And even though you may not be in physical danger, we feel abandonment and rejection in the same area of the brain that we feel physical pain. It feels the same. It feels the same. Did you ever, at any point in time, feel like you were going to die of heartache because you felt like there was such a pressure on your relationship? Meryl, it hasn't started from the beginning again. It shouldn't have gone back to the beginning. So I talked a little bit at the beginning, then we watched the attachment video, and now I'm going into what this does and the way it looks for us when we're with our partners. I'm going to talk a bit about how we resolve it. So hopefully you're not too confused. I'm sorry you're confused. But I'm trying to talk about how we do this dance with our partners. Of course, what happens for many of us when we do this dance, when we get into this dance, is we have this awful sense of loneliness and disconnection. And these feelings are really scary, and we get into a space of reactivity. So instead of being able to approach our partner and talk to our partner and be soft and gentle, what we do is we react to what is going on. And that can lead to this awful revolving door of issues coming up, trying to resolve them, people getting their buttons pushed because there's a push-pull sort of experience in there, and then the reactivity, which can lead to that emotional distress. Morel, if you want to tell me which part is confusing you, I'll try and clear it up for you. So if you can let me know what's confusing, I will certainly try and help you out with that. All right, I'm going to move on and talk a bit about the way again of us doing this, and what this looks like when we are in our relationship. So we push. We might complain, we might be critical, we might be angry. And this is an attempt to connect. These are our ways of trying to get our partner's attention. Think about your child. Think about a young kid who just keeps pushing and pushing and pushing and escalating up in an attempt to get you to react to them. Of course, what happens for the other party, if you are pushing, is the other party begins to defend. They put up distancing behaviors. I'm going for a walk. I don't want to talk to you now. You're talking rubbish. You're being emotional. You're being, and the list goes on, right? So our partners defend, and then we push back, and then they push back. And the dysfunctional dance helps us to be our worst enemies in relationship. Our brain is in fight, flight, or freeze. Our brain is in overreactivity. You cannot resolve one single thing from that space. It is not possible to try and resolve things when either of you are in that dysfunctional dance. So these patterns are what keeps us stuck. It's not about communication skills. It's not about the content of the argument. It's not the toilet seat was left up. It's not the fact that you didn't phone me. It's that these are patterns of behavior that have a push me, pull me, defending, dysfunctional kind of dance to them, where our brain receives that data as being, there's something really, really wrong here. I'm really not safe. So, as I said, this dance that we do is what gets in the way of us having our happy relationships. So what do we do about it? What are we going to do to try and get this stuff sorted out? What are we going to do to try and make this better? Because I think people want to know what the heck they can do. And there are some really great things that you can do. So when we turn to our partner, we want to know, like I said, are you there for me emotionally? And if our partner can say yes to us, we have the capacity to be soothed and calmed. This is a space where we can actually repair our relationship. This is a point where we tune into our partner. We tune into them. We actually turn towards, we listen, we watch, we respond, and we go, okay, we can fix this from here. We can talk calmly. We can be kind to each other. We can express what we actually are thinking and feeling. It's a safe haven for both people, and it helps to make the relationship stronger. It literally, like physiologically, reduces your heart rate. It reduces your stress hormone of cortisol, and it helps you to both calm down. So getting into this space is vital in your relationship. If you're wanting to make your relationship better and you're wanting to get the connection you desperately crave, you need to do this stuff. You need to turn toward. with connection and love, what happens, right, is and the research is so amazing. I love the research of this, that, you know, if you reach for the people you love and you can connect to them, you know, if you have one secure connection, one adult strong connection, your partner generally, then you are healthier on every level in your life. You have a better immune system. Like, you do not get sick as much. Your blood pressure is lower. The likelihood of you having a heart attack is reduced significantly. And if you happen to have a stroke or a heart attack, guess what? You recover faster if you have somebody who loves you there. It improves your mental health. We now know that people who have a person who they are securely connected to are less likely to get depression. If you happen to have a trauma history, or you have post-traumatic stress disorder, or you are likely to because of traumatic events, if you have one person who you feel really strongly connected to, and they are your safe place to fall, the likelihoods of you having PTSD are much smaller, and the chances of you recovering if you get it are much faster. You also are more confident as a human being. Now, these are gifts for our children, not just for ours. Love helps us to be happier, more secure, more resilient adults, and it helps to bring our families closer together. Okay, so is there any questions at all about what I'm saying? You guys are being super quiet, and I'm talking to myself a fair bit. So I'd love you to ask me questions. Like, I'm really keen to talk to you about this stuff. I really do want to know what your questions are. I really do want to know if you want to know more information, if you want me to clarify something for you, or you have a question about the way you do your relationship or your parenting. So if you have any of those questions, pop them into the chat box. Like I said, I really do want to have the opportunity to answer your questions for you. If I can possibly answer them, I'm pretty sure I can. So what I've got up on the screen at the moment, so I am a research-based practitioner. I don't just make stuff up. I actually look at the research. I am evidence-based practitioner, and I do a fair bit of writing for different magazines, newspapers, and online. So I've actually done articles in the Huffington Post in Australia, the New York Daily News. I've written for Mad's Mum a few times, and Lifestyle, as well as Wellbeing magazine and Body and Soul magazine, which is Australia's biggest magazine, about attachment, about the way this impacts our relationships, about the way this impacts our parenting. So I've done a fair bit of work on this, and I talk about it a fair bit. I'm still waiting to see if anybody has any questions at all, and you're all incredibly quiet. So I'll just keep going ahead. If anybody wants to ask me anything, please do go ahead and ask me questions. So I guess at the end of this, what I want to say is that it is absolutely possible for you to change the way you do your attachment style. You can Google attachment style online. I have an attachment style tool. If you're interested in it, I can send it to you to sort of see what your attachment style is. It's a research-based quiz. And what it needs is for you to start moving towards sort of dealing with some of your historic stuff and working around changing up your attachment style so that the legacy you do give to your kids is a different one to the one that you have. And it doesn't happen by sitting still. It happens through action. It happens through taking action and changing the way you do things each and every single day. It is so doable, so easy, in my opinion. It's not necessarily, there's challenges in it. It can be confronting and upsetting, and it can push our buttons, but we absolutely can do this. This is very doable. I do it with people every single day. So if you are interested in changing your attachment style, if you're interested in working on it and you want to actually change it and you want to change the legacy for your kids, I can definitely help you with that. I run a relationship intensive, which is a one-on-one relationship intensive, which is partially course online and partially working with me. And I do just my one-on-one relationship program, which is a 6-week program starting from the 15th of August. In that, I work with people around what I believe to be the absolute foundations and cornerstones of relationships. So I work on attachment, and I talk about what that is, why does it matter, what does it look like, and what yours is, what your partner's is, what you might be giving to your children. In addition to that, I talk about wants and needs, and I frame that up around things like the way you communicate, being able to actually express in a way that your partner can hear you and receive you to get your needs met. And I talk about the 5 love languages with that. Hang on, Mirelle, you're asking me a question. I miss a chunk because the connection is poor. Sorry, Mirelle, I really can't do anything about connection, unfortunately. But what are some examples of correct attachment on a day-to-day basis? It's a really good question, Mirelle. I'm just going to finish this and I'm going to take questions at the end and I will talk about that. If you can give me some examples of, you know, when you talk about in your day-to-day basis, are you talking about children or partners or both? Are you talking about you specifically? And I can definitely talk to you about what attachment looks like on a day-to-day basis. I'll just finish off this part and then I'll come back to your questions, okay? So in the 3rd week of the course, we look at values and beliefs. And the bottom line is your values and beliefs, you know, really impact your relationships. You know, opposites attract, but in actual fact, if our values and beliefs are really misaligned to our partner, we're going to be in a fair bit of trouble because those things are core values and core beliefs. These are the very center of who we are and the way we do our lives. So we talk about that and how they impact your relationship choices and the way you do your day-to-day with somebody. In week 4, we work on boundaries and the importance of boundaries. And unfortunately or fortunately, depending on which way you look at it, boundary styles are usually quite tightly connected to the way we do our attachment styles. So if you happen to have an anxious attachment style, there is a real possibility that you will have quite rigid boundaries. So we talk about what boundaries are on many different levels, our internal boundaries, external boundaries, the way we interact with people. We talk about how to set them and maintain them in really healthy ways. I also talk in week 5 about give and take because many people with attachment issues will tend to give way too much and rescue a fair bit. So teaching about give and take and balancing that up and how overgiving can really hurt you and your relationship, and helping women to just learn to receive because so many women struggle with receiving. It is a really painful experience for a lot of women because a lot of women do not feel like they deserve it or they're not good enough or lovable enough, which is really sad. But again, it comes back to that at that attachment style and that early learned behavior that can really make us feel that way. It's not who we are, but it's the story we've been encoded with in our history. And finally, in the final week, I talk about reactivity and managing reactivity, how to detach so that you're not pulled into and drawn into conflict, where you can actually put things in place to help you connect with your partner, where you're actually able to say, like, I don't want to do this conflict. Let me tell you what's really going on for me, and have your partner do that for you also. So it just helps generally with managing the communication and getting those needs met again. And finally, I talk about self-care. I am a massive believer in self-care, self-acceptance, self-compassion. I think these things are lacking in many women's lives, and I think they're so incredibly important, and they make a massive difference to the way we think and feel about ourselves, our kids, and our relationships. And so that's part of what I do. Okay. At the moment, the Relationship Intensive is in early bird, and I have a 3-part payment for that, which is on my website. I only work with 7 women at any one time, and so there is an application process for that. So it is about making sure that we're a good fit, making sure that, you know, we can really move you where you want to go. And I will absolutely get you into a very different space when it comes to your relationships with your kids and with your partner. So the intensive has an early bird until the end of this week on the 5th of August. And then it goes to full price after that period. The relationship course currently is in early bird also, and has a 2-part payment, which you can do from my website. But I also have a special offer, which I will just load in for you now. So if you're interested in doing my program, just on your screen is a little box that you can click. This is a 3-part payment, which is only for the people who are attending the webinar tonight. So if you are interested in my program, if you click that link, you don't have to buy it. But if you click it, that will take you to the offer. If you don't click it, once we've finished on the webinar, you won't be able to access it. So just letting you know that. And the other thing is that I believe what I do, and I believe this program, and I believe in the work that I do around attachment for families and women and couples. And so I give 100% money back guarantee. to anybody who does any work with me. So if within the first 14 days you are not happy with the work that we're doing, then I will absolutely refund your money in full. All right, I'm going to answer your questions now. So I'm going to go live to screen now so you can see my lovely face, because I also have to pull the name of somebody out of a hat. It probably isn't going to be a hat, actually. I'm going to pull somebody's name out. So I'm going to give away my program to one person here. So my 6-week online relationship program, Rewire Brain for Better Relationships. So if you are in the room right now, your name will be put into a hat, and I will pull the name out of the hat and tell you who's won it in a couple of seconds. So I'm going to answer your questions in about 2 ticks. If you could just give me 1 second and we'll get to it. All right, so Mirelle, you were going to ask me some questions about what it looks like on a day-to-day basis. And I guess when life is going well and we are really good, you know, our attachment style, it shows that we're assertive, we can ask what we want and need, we're able to resolve conflict fairly easily, we don't tend to get in those really heightened emotional states where, you know, we might start arguing with our partner and it really gets out of control, where there's yelling and shouting and upset and there's a lot of regret after it, that we say things that we don't necessarily mean, but in the heat of the argument, when we're really feeling distressed, we will say and do things that we completely regret, and we wished, you know, we just didn't say. And so, you know, you bet your life that those are definite indicators that, you know, we've become quite dysregulated, and we are not in the attachment space that we need to be in. All right, I'm going to put myself on the camera now if I can turn it on. I have to get rid of my screen share first. There we go. Oopsie daisy. There we go. So the technology is challenging for me, ladies. I'll just let you know that for nothing. Really, really confusing, but we managed to get me on the screen. If you have any questions at all, please do pop them in the chat. I'm more than happy to answer your questions if you want me to answer your questions. Some of you seem a little bit confused. I'm not entirely sure why, but if you have a question or you think that there's something that you're sort of not really sure about, just let me know and I will definitely answer it. Here's my basket with the people's names in. I'm all wrapped up with my microphone, which is not a good idea. So what I'm going to do is I'm going to pick somebody's name out of the basket because that's the fairest thing to do, and I'll just pick it there. And my piece of paper there, and I will tell you who won my relationship program. So, oh, and it is, I don't know if you can see, it's Mirelle, which is back to front, and you probably can't even read it. But Mirelle, you actually won my relationship program. So I have your email address, and what I will do is I will contact you and I will send you login details for the program, and it starts on the 15th of August. So you are more than welcome to email me if you want to ask me more questions about it. Yeah, I'm really pleased for you too. Now you'll understand what I'm talking about because I go into it in a lot of detail. So I'm really pleased you won it. You were very vocal, and I appreciate that you were talking through it, and the other ladies who asked me questions. If you guys have any questions whatsoever, I'm more than happy. Okay, Mirelle. Okay, that makes a lot of sense. Well, I can promise you by the end of this course, you're going to have a much better idea about bonding a connection post-separation and understanding how you can really help your kids to manage this time. So the stuff around attachment is massive when you've separated. A lot of the women I work with are separated, and I was separated years ago with 4 kids. It's a big deal. Cassandra, this is great info. Would require the other partner acknowledging and opening to these things for it to work together. You know what, Cassandra, it isn't actually. You know what, they don't need to. You don't need the other person to do it with you. You can do this by yourself. But what happens generally is when women are doing this, the partner can't help but change because you change the way you do it. So it's when we do the dysfunctional dance together, when we both play our part, that's when we have problems. But when one person goes, no, I'm not going to keep doing it that way, I'm choosing to do it a different way, then what happens is the other person can no longer do their behavior the same way. So we create for them a space where we go, we need to learn to do this differently. If you don't react and respond to him the way you always have, you're going to get a different outcome. And you will learn to regulate your emotional state better so that when you interact with him and he does these things, this distancing or pushing, you'll recognize it and be able to go, I know what he's doing. It's that attachment thing. Okay, what do I want to do now rather than reactivity, which is I'm just going to go off and do something. It's what do I actually want to do right now? What do I want to do? What do I need to do? How am I going to reach this guy so that he can understand that we need to connect rather than distance? So yeah, it's wonderful when two people in a couple do it, but I work with a lot of single mothers. And I guess for a lot of single women, this is about the next time. So not getting into the same situation when they partner again, or when they start dating again, or when they're in new relationships, so that they can actually change it. Attachment is so fluid, and it moves. It's not this is your attachment style and you're stuck with it forever. That's not the case. In love, we can actually change dramatically. Like dramatically, our partner can give us the space to actually move towards closer connection, which means we demonstrate that to our kids, right? Which is what we want for our children. We want them to be securely attached when they hit their adulthood. And we have between now and when that happens to really help them by demonstrating on a daily basis what a really healthy attachment looks like. Okay, also everyday examples will be great in relationships with friends. That's a really good point, Cassandra, because we don't talk about friends much, but you can bet your life the people you feel strongly about, the people you have a very strong reaction to, or the people who you rescue. So depending on what your attachment style is, will depend on how you do your friendships. But the closer your friends are, the more like it's your parents, your siblings, and your really close friends will activate you the way a love partner will. They just do, because they have the same capacity. The difference, I guess, is we are more forgiving for our female girlfriends than we generally are for our love partners, because it's a different dynamic. Me and another woman is a different, unless you're a same-sex couple, of course, and that's different again. But for me and that female friend, I'm not invested in her to meet my emotional needs. Like, it's nice that she can do stuff for me, but at the end of the day, she doesn't come home with me. She isn't the one I confess all of my stuff to. She isn't generally the one who I'm my most vulnerable with. So yeah, with friendship relationships, you bet it impacts. It really does. And it's about, again, watching. We all have friends who are needy, or friends who want us to rescue them and they want us to come and bail them out of stuff. But that might be the only time they connect with us. So if that's the case, it's about, again, look at the dance. What's the dance about? And how do we want to react to it? Do we want to be pulled in this automatic kind of way? Or do we want to be a bit more deliberate and slow down and take the time we need to go, this isn't how I want to do this. It doesn't feel good for me. All right. I'm really hoping I've been saying your name right, Meryl. Congratulations on winning the course. I know you're going to get a ton out of it. Like I said, I've got your email address. I will forward some information to you when we start on the 15th of August. So I'll get that through to you. If anybody has any more questions for me, I'm more than happy to answer your questions. So if you have any more questions, go ahead. I've got to watch. I keep catching my microphone. So if you have any more questions, pop them in and I'm happy to answer your questions. I'm just going to have some tea though, because I'm also very thirsty. Oh, that's really good. Okay, I don't hear any questions from anybody. Okay, you know where I am. You can contact me at debbiecarberry.com.au if you would like to talk to me about anything. You are more than welcome, Morel. It was really lovely to have you on the call tonight, and I'm really looking forward to working with you. I think you will get a ton out of the program. So, okay, if you want to contact me, debbiecarberry.com.au, there's a contact button there, or the work with me button there. For those who see me in groups and things, you will see me in groups and things, and we can chat. thank you so much for coming tonight. I really appreciate it. And hopefully I'll talk to you again another time. Thanks, guys. Bye.